Welcome to Teal House Farm. We're doing something a little different. Today's Tuesday meal for the canning pantry is a quick breakfast because it's Saturday morning, which means we're not really in a rush to do anything or go anywhere. And everybody's complaining they kind of want breakfast, but I don't really feel like making breakfast because I already have a really big project going on today, cooking project, and I started it last night, so there's already pots out and stuff. I don't want to make like a huge more mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some really easy sausage gravy with some vegetables, scrambled eggs on toast, and so it's not going to make a whole lot of dirty dishes, and everybody will just like eat everything on one plate. So it's kind of like a big filling breakfast without, you know, making all the pancakes and the bacon and all that. So let's show you what you need to get this done. Okay, from the canning pantry, we're going to need a pint of sausage. I have a half pint of spinach, a half pint of onions. You could use mushrooms in this too, would be really good. Peppers would be great. We're just going to use those things today. To make the sausage gravy, I'm going to finish up this powdered milk. You could use our milk if you want to, but we're running a little low on milk, so I'm going to use the powdered milk to make it, and I'll show you how we do that. We're going to need a little bit of flour, salt, and pepper too. We got some leftover breads, almost done loaves to make the toast, and then we're going to scramble eggs. I'll have to get more eggs out of the fridge. I'll serve this with some fruit on the side. We already have like grapes and stuff in the fridge, so that won't need any work. Just pull those out. So this should go pretty quick. We'll start by toasting our toast and getting the sausage out of the can and warmed up a little bit. And once it's warmed up, we can add some flour to it and then get started with making the gravy. Now we want as much of the grease as we can get because the grease is what's going to make the gravy nice and thick when you add the flour. So don't leave the grease in the can. Let's get started. Toast is first, so I'm just using up these loaves here. This is a great recipe to use your bread ends on too, because once it's soaked in gravy, you're going to have no idea which pieces of toast were middle pieces and which pieces are end pieces. So let's use up these end pieces. I don't have all the same type of bread, it really doesn't matter, so we're going to use a little whole wheat, and then I'm going to use some of this white loaf as well, and we're just going to kind of use up our pieces. Also a great use for some almost stale bread because when you toast it, you really can't tell. So we're just kind of using up what was in the bread drawer. And then we're gonna sneak out here and find a small pan so we can get our sausage started. Turn that on medium low and we're gonna dump in our jar of sausage. I raw packed this can, I'll link that below. You can also pack in broth. If you had packed it in broth, you would need to drain that first. We're going to try to keep as much grease as possible to make the sausage gravy, which is why I like using this dry pack version for sausage gravy because all that grease doesn't get drained out with the broth. Scrape it in there, let's let it get sizzling, and then we'll work more on the gravy. Meanwhile, let's get our powdered milk ready. So we're going to add a 1/3 cup of powdered milk per cup of water. So I want 2 cups of milk to make this recipe. So we're going to do 2/3 cup of powdered milk and then fill this quart jar halfway. That's basically 2 cups of water, right? That math works out. It's okay if it's not perfect. Powdered milk's pretty forgiving. I like to mix it by just shaking really hard. So this is your time to shake what your mama gave you. Don't be gentle because you don't want clumps in your sausage gravy. So give it a really good shake. We're gonna get our spinach and onions going. So I have a little bit over of a tablespoon of butter, put it in this warm pan and let it melt. And then we're gonna pop open and drain our spinach. This year is my first year canning spinach. I learned a lot. You can tell the water level's not perfect. So next year I'll be able to get it. It was trickier than I thought. And then we're gonna drain and add our onions as well. And then while those start sizzling in their butter, we're gonna scramble our eggs. So my general rule of thumb is 1 egg per family member. So we're gonna scramble 8 eggs here today. Give them a nice whisk. We're gonna cook them in the same pan that we're doing the spinach and onions in. So we're just getting them ready, set aside. Sausage is looking great. It's nice and sizzly. The grease is all melted. So we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt, a nice heaping dash of pepper, and then we're going to head out to the pantry and get about a 1/4 cup worth of all-purpose flour, and we're going to go ahead and whisk that in really good. Make sure there's no clumps before we add our powdered milk mixture. And once that looks good to go, we go ahead and pour in our milk mixture. Now the powdered milk gets a little frothy when you shake it like that. It's totally fine. It'll mix in just like regular milk does. I do a little bit at a time, make sure it gets mixed in really well, add some more, just kind of work like that until I get it all in there. I don't just dump it in all at once because you could end up with a big clump. I always have helpers wanting to help me film, so JJ gave me a hand there. All right, our sausage and onions are nice and hot. We're gonna move them out of the pan. If I mix the sausage and onions in with the kids' scrambled eggs, they would probably lose their minds. Or at least they'll pick them all out. So we'll take them out and then add our scrambled eggs. All right, finally, while our scrambled eggs are cooking, we're gonna get the percolator going with coffee. I really like using the percolator when I wanna make a big batch of coffee because it doesn't use any filters and it uses less coffee than a coffee maker, so it saves money. Our toast is ready. We'll take that out and we're gonna start setting the table. 8 plates out. The kids are gonna get a deconstructed meal instead of the sandwich piled on top of each other. Works better with the kids, and not all of the kids will eat sausage gravy, which I understand. It's kind of an adult texture thing. So the kids are gonna get their toast with some Nutella on it, and we'll save the sausage gravy for those who like it and for me and Sam. We're gonna do some grapes on the side because I have grapes in the fridge, and of course with the littlest, you need to cut those grapes up into quarters so nobody chokes. And then everybody gets a nice heaping spoonful of the scrambled eggs. And then we're gonna make Sam and my breakfast. So we add the spinach and onions underneath. And then we are going to add the scrambled eggs on top of that. And then just absolutely douse it in some delicious sausage gravy. It's gonna make that toast nice and gooey on the bottom, I guess is the best way to say it. And so you can't tell which ends are ends and which pieces are middle pieces. And some grapes just because we want to be somewhat healthy, I guess. But it does have spinach in there, so I guess that counts for something. Of course, you can't have breakfast without a nice cup of coffee. The percolator makes it extra hot, so a little bit of creamer and a nice cup of coffee. It'd be a great start for a Saturday morning. We like a slow start on Saturdays. There's no school for the kids to do, so we can kind of sit, eat breakfast, sip some coffee, usually let the kids watch some cartoons before we get our day started. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.